Welcome back to FDVN's channel. In today's video, we will introduce the new lesson, Acting for an Employee. Exercise 1, Emma Lucas is an employment lawyer in Chatsworth. The most important words are in the key vocabulary below. Listen carefully and fill in the blank. When I represent an employee, it is usually because he or she has a grievance against an employer. A grievance is a complaint. The law says that employers must listen to grievances and help the employee. Unfortunately, some employers do not do this. Employees often come to me because the employer has not followed the correct procedure for dealing with a grievance. When an employee leaves a job because the employer does not listen to a grievance, the law says that it is not fair. Sometimes employees consult me because although the employer followed the correct grievance procedure, the employee feels they were not treated in a fair way. The employee has the right to make a claim against the employer in a special employment court called a tribunal. Most towns and cities in the UK have a tribunal office where an employee can file a claim. When an employee makes a claim to a tribunal, he or she must state the grounds for the claim. Here are some of the reasons that employees give to a tribunal. Discrimination. To discriminate against someone at work means to act towards that person in a different, more negative way from other employees. Employees often claim that they had a bad experience at work because of their age, their sex, the color of their skin, their nationality, or because they have some physical or mental disability. Harassment. To harass someone means to act towards someone in a way that makes that person feel uncomfortable or distressed. Sometimes it is the employer who harasses the employee. Sometimes it is other employees who do it. In this case, the employer has a duty to stop the harassment. If the employer does not stop the harassment and the employee leaves work, it is constructive dismissal. The employee can make a claim against the employer if this happens. Harassment is sometimes called bullying in the workplace. In Europe, the word mobbing is sometimes used. This word is not used in the UK. Unfair dismissal. If an employer unfairly dismisses an employee, it means that the employer fired the employee without a good reason. Most employers do what is called an appraisal of an employee's performance every year. An appraisal is an evaluation or a judgment of how the employee is doing. If an employee gets 2 or 3 bad appraisals, the employer might not want to continue employing that person. The problem is, employees often think their appraisal was unfair. X2. Complete these sentences with a word or phrase from the key vocabulary in Exercise 1. A. I am sure my employer treats me badly because I am a foreigner. My lawyer says that I can sue my employer on the grounds of. B. I was the only woman in my office. The men working there made jokes about me all of the time and said that my job was only to make coffee for them. I stopped working there because it was horrible and my employer didn't help me. The grounds for my claim were. Dismissal. C. I have made a claim against my employer. The case will be heard next month by an employment. D. I had an from my employer last week. It was very good. My employer said that I am a good employee and I work well with others. E. I am making a claim for. Dismissal. My employer sacked me last month and the only reason was that my employer's daughter wanted to have my job. X3. Here is what Emma Lucas says about acting for employee. Choose a word or phrase from the box below to complete the context: docked, legislation, on the spot, seminars, contentious, allegations, regulations, strike, duty of care, trade union. Acting for an employer is very different from acting for an employee. Often my job is doing non-contentious work. Non-contentious means that the employer is not involved in a dispute with anyone. It means doing work such as drafting contracts of employment or giving employers some advice about the latest. There are many that employers need to know about. A lot of these come from the European Union. It is very important that employers comply with employment law. This means that employers must follow employment law. To inform employers about new legislation my law firms holds. These are meetings where groups of employers receive information from our law firm about how new laws will affect them. The employers can ask us questions if they are not sure about anything. A lot of new regulations are about health and safety issues. For example, an employer has to employees and to any people who visit the employer's premises. In this situation, the duty of care is a duty to make sure that no employee or visitor is harmed. This includes things like making sure that employees have the proper training to do their job correctly and safely. It also includes making sure that machinery or office equipment is safe. Sometimes I have to do work. This is because an employee makes a claim against my client, the employer. Some employees make very serious. And it is my job to defend my client at an employment tribunal. Sometimes the employee's claim is valid and the employer must pay compensation. Last month I advised an employer who an employee's pay as a punishment because the employee was always late for work. This means that the employer kept part of the employee's pay. I explained to the employer that he is not allowed to do this. A tribunal would support the employee in this situation. Another employer fired an employee for being late. This means he dismissed the employee immediately and without warning. Again, I explained that this is not legal. In that case, the employees became involved. This is an organization of people who work in the same job or profession who help each other when a member has a problem like this. An employer has to be careful because when a trade union is involved it could lead to This is a situation where a group of employees stop working because one of them or a group of them have a grievance against the employer.